You've been trying, smiling more, thinking positively, raising your vibe because you've heard that's the key to manifesting what you want. But deep down, you're tired. Tired of forcing light when you feel the dark. Tired of pretending to be high frequency when something inside you is still quietly aching. And maybe the hardest part, despite all the effort, nothing really shifts. Here's a truth that rarely gets told. Your vibration isn't based on your emotions, not the fleeting joy or the anxiety you're trying to suppress. Hermetic teachings, those passed down from Thoth, remind us that vibration is deeper than mood. It's your identity, the essence you live from when no one's watching. In this video, we're not chasing high vibe. We're not avoiding the low either. We're returning to the middle, to the rhythm beneath the noise, to the source of your true frequency. And from there, everything begins to move. There's a moment quiet but powerful when you stop asking, "Why am I feeling this way?" and start asking, "What if I don't need to fix this?" That moment often arrives after years of chasing light, of trying to vibrate higher, think better, feel more gratitude, of believing that manifestation depends on staying positive. But what if the very act of resisting the low is what's keeping you stuck? In the Hermetic teachings, Thoth spoke of rhythm and polarity not as obstacles, but as laws of nature. Everything, he said, moves in waves. The universe breathes in and out. Energy rises and falls. Even the sun, constant as it seems, has its arc across the sky. So why would you be any different? You're not broken when your energy dips. You're not failing when you feel anxious or heavy. You're simply swinging with the pendulum just as everything else in this universe does. But here's the secret Thoth offered. The wise do not try to stop the swing. They learn to remain unmoved at the center. Think about that. Most people spend their energy resisting one side of the pendulum. They try to cling to joy, push away fear, deny sadness, fake strength. But that resistance builds tension. And like a slingshot pulled too tight, the swing back becomes even more intense. That's why the cycle feels endless. You feel good for a while, then crash. And when you crash, shame floods in. You start questioning your progress, your spirituality, your worth. And so you double down, try harder, force a smile, affirm your way back to high vibes, only to fall again. It's not that you're doing it wrong. It's that you're trying to stop a law. Rhythm and polarity were never meant to be enemies. They are invitations. Invitations to stop resisting and start witnessing. To stop forcing and start flowing. To stop identifying with every rise and fall and remember who you are beneath the swing. Here, what changes everything. Awareness. When the wave comes, observe. Breathe. Let it move through. Don't judge it. Don't run from it. Don't narrate it with old stories. Just notice. You can say, "This is the swing, and I remain in my center." Because that center, it's not your mood. It's not your thought. It's the still, steady presence beneath it, all the place where frequency lives, not emotion. Emotion is the weather. Frequency is the sky. The more you practice staying here in the center, the less you're ruled by the extremes. You'll still feel, you'll still move, but you won't be owned by it. You won't mistake a bad day for a broken path. And maybe, for the first time, you'll realize you don't need to fight the dark to find the light. You only need to stop turning away from yourself. You're allowed to feel it all. That's not weakness. That's mastery. There's something we've been getting wrong. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes. It doesn't tune into your mood swings. It's not moved by how badly you want something or how many times you repeat an affirmation. What it responds to is your identity, not the surface one you show the world, but the one pulsing quietly beneath every thought, every feeling, every choice. The one your subconscious accepts as truth, that is your real frequency. And that's what creates your reality. Most of us have been taught that emotion is the key, that if we feel good, the good will come. So we chase the high, suppress the low, and try to vibe our way into a new life. But what if your emotions are just echoes? Temporary waves moving through a much deeper ocean? And what if, while you're trying to feel positive, your core identity is quietly saying, "I'm still not enough"? That identity speaks louder than any mood. It's what the subconscious listens to always. Your subconscious isn't logical. It doesn't care what you say you want. It tunes in to what you live, what you embody, what you quietly accept, even when no one is watching. When you wake up feeling alone, but keep showing up with grace, that's a frequency. When you stop pretending to be fine and simply breathe with what is, that's a frequency. When you forgive yourself not because you feel like it, but because you've chosen peace, that's a frequency. It's not about how you feel in a moment. It's about who you become in the pattern. In the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, there's an image carved into stone, one that still sends chills down the spine of those who understand its meaning. A soul stands before the gods, and beside them, a scale. On one side, the feather of truth. On the other, the heart. To pass, the heart must be lighter than the feather. But this isn't about literal sin or virtue. It's about alignment. The heart, your inner self, must not be weighed down by false identities, heavy stories, borrowed roles. To transcend, your identity must be light. True, whole, not perfect, just honest. That's what the universe feels. Not the noise of your emotion, but the clarity of your essence. So how do you shift your identity? You choose it. Again and again. Not by force, but by familiarity. You begin to live as the version of you who already is. Not hoping, not waiting. Just gently leaning into the reality where your worth is unquestioned, your presence is enough, and your choices reflect your remembering. It's subtle at first. You pause before reacting. You speak with more space. You stop asking for permission to exist. And slowly, the outer begins to mirror the inner. Not because you tried to feel better, but because you remembered who you are beneath the feelings. This is the shift no one talks about. It's not about trying to be happy. It's about being true. It's not about faking the light. It's about standing steady through the storm. It's not about manifesting things. It's about manifesting you. Your identity is your real signal. And when that aligns, everything else follows. There's a code hidden in plain sight, carved into ancient temples, whispered in sacred texts, and echoed through every act of true creation. It's not a spell. It's not a secret kept by a chosen few. It's a pattern, a map for how reality forms. Yod, He, Vav, He, 4 simple symbols. But together, they hold the essence of how you shape your world. To understand this code, you have to move beyond the surface. Beyond just think positive or raise your vibe. You have to step into the mechanics of creation itself. In the teachings of Thoth, and later in the mystical framework of the Kabbalah, Yod, He, Vav, He is not just a name. It's a cycle, a 4-step process that governs how anything from a thought to a universe comes into being. First, Yod, the spark of consciousness, a flash of pure intention, a seed. It's that moment when something stirs inside you, a quiet knowing. A desire not born of lack, but of resonance. This is what I'm meant to create. Then comes He, the image, the inner visualization. The shape it takes in your mind's eye, you begin to see it, not just as a wish, but as a felt experience. You imagine the sound of it, the taste, the rhythm of life when this reality is already yours. Next, Vav, the alignment, the emotional and energetic agreement. This is where most people get stuck. They can think about what they want all day, but they don't feel it as real. They don't act from it. They try to manifest from a place of waiting when the code only activates through living. Because Vav is where you say yes, not with your words, but with your walk. Finally, he again, the external reflection, the manifestation. What once lived in the invisible now takes form, not because you forced it, but because you became it. This is why thinking positive isn't enough. You can't skip steps. The mind might speak the language of thoughts, but the body, the subconscious, only believes what it experiences. And experience starts within. Imagine trying to convince your subconscious that you are safe, abundant, worthy, while every part of your nervous system is still reacting to fear or waiting for proof. The code doesn't respond to hope. It responds to congruence. When your inner state, your emotional tone, your choices, and your vision all align, you become magnetic. Not because you're lucky, because you're coherent. This is the hidden art Thoth passed down. The ability to create not from grasping, but from knowing. Not from begging the universe, but from becoming the channel through which it flows. It's ancient mysticism, but also pure mind science. Modern neuroscience tells us the brain only rewires through repeated internal proof. The body only believes a new identity when it feels the reality of it consistently. So what if you stopped trying to attract what you want and started walking as if it was already true? What if your mornings became a rehearsal of the reality you've chosen? Not as fantasy, but as training for a new signal, a new vibration. Because that's what this code is. A circuit, a frequency loop. Thought, emotion, action, reflection repeating over and over until your outer world has no choice but to follow your inner rhythm. Yod he, Vav he, idea, image, alignment, embodiment. It's not just theory, it's the pulse of creation. And it's already inside you. You don't need to unlock it. You just need to remember the steps. Live the pattern, trust the current, and reality will catch up every single time. There's a subtle difference that changes everything. Just a shift in perspective. But once you feel it, you can't go back. It's the difference between thinking of what you want and thinking from it. Most of us don't realize we spend our lives thinking of things. We visualize, we hope, we chase. We say, I want abundance, but we do it from a place that's rooted in lack. We imagine love while still feeling unlovable. We talk about peace, yet move from anxiety. But there's a truth hidden inside the Hermetic teachings and echoed in the words of mystics across time. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. Thoth didn't teach people how to wish harder. He taught them how to become the vibration they seek. And that begins with this small but seismic shift. Stop thinking of your desires and start thinking from them. When you think from something, it's no longer distant. It's already true. Your choices change, not as performance, but as coherence. You walk differently when you're someone who knows they're worthy. You speak differently. Even the way you eat, rest, respond, it all adjusts to match the identity that already holds the reality you once chased. This isn't about pretending. It's not about faking till you make it. It's about living from alignment, even before the outside world catches up. Here's an example. Let's say you want to feel peaceful. You've spent years trying to create peace by fixing the chaos around you. But what if, instead, you started making micro decisions as someone who already lives in peace? What would that person do when conflict arises? when uncertainty creeps in, when the phone rings and it's more pressure? Would they rush to fix it all, or would they breathe, anchor into stillness, and respond from grounded clarity? That's the shift. It's not about intensity. It's about intimacy with your own frequency. You don't need to feel high vibe all the time. You just need to remember who you are and move from there. The truth is, when you think from your desire, you begin to dissolve the separation between you and it. You stop chasing and you start allowing. You stop proving and you start embodying. And that is where the magic unfolds. Because life no longer needs to test you to see if you're ready. You're already living as the one who is. This is freedom, not the kind that comes from controlling outcomes, but the kind that rises when you no longer need to, when your identity holds the vibration and your world simply reflects it. So next time you want to manifest something, pause. Don't ask, how do I get there? Ask, what would it feel like if I was already there, and what does that version of me do next? Then do that, because that one choice, that one breath taken from the future you, is how it all begins to shift. There comes a moment in every inner journey where the outside world seems to push back harder than ever. Just when you've started to feel aligned, more peaceful, more grounded, life throws chaos your way. Old habits creep in. People question you, doubt whispers, and everything in your body wants to return to the familiar, even if that familiar once made you miserable. This is the moment that matters most, not the meditation cushion, not the vision board, but this, the middle of the mess. You're not being punished, you're being tested. Every true path to transformation has this trial. Thoth knew it. The Buddha sat under a tree while the world around him tried to seduce, distract, and terrify. Jesus faced the desert alone, starving, tempted. These aren't just stories, they are maps. Because what's being tested isn't your ability to stay high vibe. It's your ability to remain true to your frequency when everything around you doesn't reflect it. This is when most people fall back. They say, maybe it's not working, maybe I was wrong. But the truth, that's the voice of your past self begging for control again. And you don't have to listen. This is where the shift becomes real. Not because you're forcing anything, but because you remember who you are even when the world forgets. So how do you do that? You become the center of gravity. Imagine your identity, your chosen frequency, as a still point within you. Around it, life can swirl, fear, drama, delay, but that center doesn't move. The more you breathe into it, the more you let it anchor you, the less you're pulled into the chaos. You'll still feel. You're human, but you won't react from fear. You'll respond from presence. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. The outer world starts to reflect the inner one, not immediately, not always loudly, but unmistakably. People notice, energy shifts, paths open. But even if it doesn't right away, you're still okay. Because your worth no longer depends on what's happening around you. It lives in what's happening within. And here's something else to remember. You're not alone in this. There are thousands, millions of others waking up right now, quietly, steadily, choosing who they are over who they were. You may not see them, but they're out there holding the frequency in silence, and your choice adds to that field. So when the storm comes, as it always will, don't ask, why is this happening? Ask, who am I going to be in the middle of this? And then be it, not perfectly, just truthfully. That's how you hold your identity when the world turns upside down. Not by fighting the storm, but by becoming the calm that changes it. Take a breath. You don't need to push. You don't need to prove. If something inside you stirred while watching this, if a part of you whispered, "Yes, that's me," then trust it. Your frequency has awakened. It may not feel loud or dramatic. It may arrive like morning light, soft, gentle, certain. But it's here, you've shifted. And now it's not about trying harder, it's about allowing. Allow this new vibration to shape how you walk through your day, how you speak, what you say yes or no to. Let it choose for you, not from fear or habit, but from truth. If you feel it, if this touched something deep within you, leave a simple mark in the comments. My frequency awakened, not for me. For you to anchor it, to name it, to step into it. And when you're ready, the next step awaits. Because awakening is just the beginning. Living from it, especially in a chaotic world, is the real journey. In the next video, we'll explore how to sustain this frequency in your emotions, your behaviors, and even the quiet, everyday choices that shape your path. For now, breathe. You are exactly where you need to be.